Seven.
Alright viewers, we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. Please do well to follow us live there by dropping your comment, your contribution of any of the story that is of interest to you this morning. Quite a lot of stories on the paper, so we'll employ you to please sit as we take you down through some of the stories. And Rachel will be taking us through the first paper this morning.
Starting with Nigerian Tribune, gunmen kill 21 in Plateau communities. LCDA's public hearing sparks roar in Ondo. The big story on the paper, ECOWAS orders activation of standby force against Niger. The writer says option for peaceful resolution still on table. Decision on Niger, not Nigeria affair. Statement coming from Gotera. You can find more details on page 5. Still on the story, Tinubu affirms support for peaceful return to democratic rule. Afenifere wants ECOWAS to adopt diplomacy, not military intervention. How dollar rate ex-depot price will push petrol pump price up. Coming from oil marketers says price may reach 750 naira per liter if. So we hope that something is being done so that it doesn't get to that price. You can find the details on page 6. Naira tumbles to 955 naira at parallel market. This is $2. You can find more details on page 7. Why price of cooking gas may surge. Another update coming from marketers. Ohanize describes allocation of 5 ministerial slots to Southeast on just demands equity. You can find more details on page 18. And at the downside of the paper, controversy rages over alleged Edo deputy governor plot to defect to APC. Coming from a Shamala APC, not rehabilitation camp. We have Shaibu vows to swim or sink with Obaseki. You can find more details on page 10. And we have a map showing the member states of ECOWAS where we can see Niger, Nigeria, Mali, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and the other West African countries. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Moving on now to the Daily Sun newspaper, Edo Deputy Governor Shaibu may join APC next week with the rider to be received by Party National Working Committee. Oshumole says ruling party, not rehabilitation center. You can find detail on page 27. The big story, ECOWAS orders deployment of troops to Niger Republic. The rider direct defense chief to activate standby force. AU-UN official present at meeting. And then Kupis are terrorists. They belong to the barracks, coming from Quatara. You can find that on page 6. Tackle insecurity, revive dead industry. CSO tells Tinubu. You can find that on page 28. And on job racketeering, Reps Committee orders arrests of ex-FCC staff for shunning invitation. 21 killed in midnight attack in Plateau State. Governor expresses worry over the renewed killing. And this happened yesterday right about 1 a.m. in Haipan of Birkinladi local government area of Plateau State, where about 21 persons were being killed. And then a lot of things are being done into that. The governor has also sent some free lines where you can call just in case of emergency or anything. So you can do well to grab the Daily Sun and read detail of that on page 4 of the Daily Sun newspaper. And on ministerial list, Ohanize accuses Tinubu of shortchanging the Southeast. 69% of inmates are awaiting trial, coming from the National Correctional Service of Nigeria. You can do well to find detail on page 5. Illegal possession of firearms, court fixed August 15 for hearing of Emifele's federal government application. You can find detail on page 4. Southeast governors meet in Enugu, vow to end insecurity in zone, exonerate Kanu from ugly situation. You can find that also on page 26. The last story on the paper, kidnapping reducing in the Southeast, coming from the COAS. You can find that on page 5. The picture story here, we can see the chairman of the ECOWAS, President Bola Tinubu, with other leaders after meeting on Niger Republic crisis in Abuja yesterday. And I think it's important, Rachel, that we talk a little about ECOWAS. and also the meeting that they had. They were supposed to meet yesterday, which they did meet, and we've seen from the caption here, they said they are having troops on standby. And I was opportune to listen to a number of interviews being done to different elder statesmen. Also, another was coming from a barrister in person of barrister Daniel Wala, and he was stating some of the lessons we need to learn from all of this thing. And then we know that we are not strange, just like I have said, to coup. When it comes to the issue of coup, we've had a number of them in Nigeria, about 5, ranging from 1966 to 1985. So you will agree that Nigeria is quite familiar with what it means to actually have coup d'etat in a country, and then how all of this thing resolved. And then a lot of people are saying, yes, we've seen the likes of Edwig yesterday, where they were talking about the middle belt and also the southeast leaders coming to tell the president, because he is the chairman, not to get the military involved. In fact, not to get involved in all of this thing, because we're looking at the number of states. This was what they were saying, a number of states that are closely the border, because of some of our porous border that are close, the likes of Sokoto and other states that are actually sharing a border with Niger. And then a little escalation of this coup can actually trigger the issue of terrorism we are already having in some of these northwest countries. And these are some of the concerns that elder statesmen, a lot of leaders are coming out to say that ECOWAS have to be careful. And then looking at the meeting they had yesterday, the coupists sent a reply yesterday saying that if ECOWAS attempts to actually force them to move or to actually go into democracy, because they just want ECOWAS to mind its business, they said that they will kill the president. Already he has been held captive in his house. Yesterday he was saying the fact that he has been eating dry rice since from the July 26th when these coupists took over the country. So quite a lot of lessons to pick. We are not strange to this, but then people are advising ECOWAS to look on a way where a peaceful, reconciliation can actually start in Niger, because it's really sad. They already have Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali supporting them, because these other countries already are taken over by military over there. So I just hope that the ECOWAS will actually take its step, take its time. And even though we've seen already, they're already deploying troops on standby, I just hope they will be quick to actually use it. Because yesterday, if you take a look at some of the demonstration coming from people, and also even making ridicule of our president, you will know that a lot is going on in Niger presently. So we hope that a lot will go into it, and I hope that ECOWAS will actually take its time to be careful and not to do anything that would trigger a war that at the end of the day will have it affecting other West African countries.
Of course, ECOWAS have to be extremely careful. Of course, Nigeria can't say ECOWAS should mind your business, because you are part of ECOWAS, and of course it is their business because you've agreed to be a part of ECOWAS. But then that is not the case now. Any military intervention now will mean war. Now this military junta have made it clear that this is not a bloody coup. They're not they are not it's not an outro of killing somebody or killing people that have been in the cabinet of the president. They just want to take power over for their reasons that they have clearly stated. However, with the way they are going, they've clearly showed it to ECOWAS that they do not want violence. But if ECOWAS should intervene with military, it means war. And these are all small countries. They are not that big. So whatever will happen in Niger would definitely affect countries, neighboring countries. And the last thing we want is to start seeing illegal migration of people from war-torn areas into another country. It means more crime. It means we will start having terrorism that we didn't know, and all of that, and it's going to destabilize a lot of things. Already we are seeing how the sanctions are even affecting Nigerian businesses and also affecting Nigeria directly. So imagine a situation where we are looking at military coming in, trying to take over. So as it stands now, of course, we're not saying the ECOWAS should go lightly on the Niger coup is because for sure this is a breach in democracy. However, the best step right now for them to put in place is diplomacy. Let them find every way around, let them exhaust every means, every way around going this that is not going to include military intervention. Until they've exhausted every other option on tackling this, then military intervention should be the last of what ECOWAS should do concerning restoring back democracy in Niger Republic.
Well, maybe they should call the scopies and let us know how long do they want to, rule. Just like we had other negotiation, people have said there was negotiation looking at the likes of Mali, where they said after 2 years they will give, they will hand over power. But then a lot of people are raising concern the fact that if you take a look at the present shooters that are actually leading the coup there in Niger, they do not look like they are ready to back down anytime soon. So to avoid, just like you said, it's a bloodless coup. Nobody has been killed, no blood has been shed. So let us not escalate this whole situation and lead it to the result, because they are already threatening to murder the president if something goes wrong, and that is not what I believe ECOWAS wants. So we hope that they tread with caution. And I think that's all I have on the Daily Sun newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, the big story is still on the military junta in Niger Republic. Tension heightens in Niamey as ECOWAS activates standby force. The writer under the story will explore all options to resume Bazoum to office. The statement coming from Tinubu: avoid enmity between Nigeria, Niger, can tells president. Junta leader forms government, names ministers. You can find more details on page 4. And we have holiday bonanza, reps cry foul over exclusion. And when we should see you talking about other things, the reps are crying foul that they have been excluded from the holiday bonanza, where I'm looking forward to where our lawmakers and our representatives are crying out for the hardship in Nigeria rather than holiday bonanzas and all of the things that don't matter regarding to the situation in the country. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 7. Naira hits 930 per dollar at parallel market as gap widens to 150 naira. You can find more details on page 23. Southeast Governor's Army vowed to rescue region from criminals. And on ministerial list, why Tinubu needs El-Rufai in his cabinet. A statement coming from Kule. If you want to know why, find the details on page 14. And on defection plan, Shaibu not welcome in Edo. APC Oshemola is saying that. You can find the details of his statement on page 6. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
Well, just like you said, reps are crying foul on exclusion. But a lot of people are raising concern. They are crying foul not because they feel Nigerians are supposed to benefit, but they are crying foul because they did not get a bonanza for holiday.
Yes.
So I think this is a conversation that Nigerians would love to get involved in. Are we supposed to be looking forward to seeing where lawmakers are supposed to look at the welfare of the citizens or welfare for themselves? So I think this is quite another question and another interaction and discussion on its own. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and see how this whole story, unfolds eventually. Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, where we have Nigeria's oil production declines 13.6% to 1.08 million barrels per day. You can find that on page 19. Southeast Governors reps Army move against insecurity, which you can find on page 11. Why Naira is depreciating, because we've seen that already. Naira has hit 930 Naira to a dollar. So if you care to know why the Naira has been depreciating amidst the flooding of the Naira and many other things, you can do well to grab the paper and read that story on page 20. On the job racketeering, reps panel orders arrest of the ex-FCC staff, which you can find on page 8. And we have 21 killed in a fresh attack on 2 Plateau communities, which you can find on page 6. The sad one, we hope that those who are involved will be brought to book soon. The big story is still on the issue of Niger coup. ECOWAS order deployment of standby force. The writer following that direct committee of chiefs of defense staff to activate standby force appeals to UN for support. Junta warns they will kill dispossessed president in event of any military intervention. Forms new government, names 21 ministers. UN chief worries about Nigerian president detention condition, coming from the spokesperson. Khan warn against military intervention in the Niger Republic. Use diplomacy, not military action, Afenifere tells ECOWAS. Dialogue has failed to resolve crisis, Cote d'Ivoire president is saying. Well, a lot of people have something to say on how peace can be restored to Niger. So quite a lot of things to say, and we hope that ECOWAS will actually take all of this warning and appeal and advice coming from different stakeholders. On the issue of defection, APC National Working Committee to welcome Edo Deputy Governor next week. And the writers say, it's not true. I will swim with Obaseki, coming from Shaibu. APC North Rehabilitation Center for Distressed Politicians, coming from Oshomade. You will need to find out why he said that on page 7. We also have APC decries escalation of banditry in Zamfara, and no wonder people are saying we should tread with caution on the issue of that because of what we are having in Zamfara state. You can do well to find more detail on page 12. Tribunal sack Kanu NNPP rep member over certificate forgery. You can find that on page 12. We have other column for sport and also another coming from one of the statement here. So you can do well to grab the Vanguard and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On this day newspaper, excess liquidity weakens Naira further at parallel market to 950 Naira per dollar. We have officials parallel market gap widens to 169 Naira. CBN resumes OMO auction. Coming from IMF, Nigeria's economic policies too loose to support nation's currency. Apex Bank recorded over 103.85 billion Naira profit in 2022. Illegal possession of firearms. Court fixes August 15 to hear Emefiele federal government's application. You can find the details on page 5. UNICEF advocates for 6 months paid maternity leave for working nursing mothers. We are looking forward to that, hoping it actualizes, and you can find more details on page 10. Tinubu rejoices with doing of accounting Akintola Williams at 104. The big story, Niger, ECOWAS deploys troops ready for diplomacy in peace. We have the writer saying Nigerian president says initial ultimatum yielded no results. We are ready, declares Nigeria Air Force. Afenifere Khan and others insist military action is no option. You can find more details on page 5. We have a picture story showing the second special ECOWAS meeting on Niger crisis, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, Kalu lobbies Ganduji for more Southeast ministerial slots, which you can find on page 11. Naira slum fuel price may go up, says marketers. You can find that on page 30. And they were saying this in result to the fact that presently they are buying the fuel at 600 Naira. They no longer buy. Then they were buying it at about 480 Naira. But presently right now, they are buying it at 600 Naira. So you know what that entails, right? And you remember, Rachel, I was saying right now, a lot of people have come out to say they do not know which is going to get first. It's obvious that Naira is going to get to 1,000 Naira per dollar before the fuel. But a lot of things are into work, and no wonder we've seen that Naira keep depreciating and all of this. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what are the steps. Already we've been warned, looking at the issue of that gas will increase or might increase by next week, and a lot of people will say this is a time where you need to refill your gas cylinders wherever they are. But another question Nigerians will ask is that they do not even have what is needed, the money to go and refill the gas in this midst of hardship. So quite a lot of things. Well, we just hope that something will be done, and then the federal government will actually come to the rescue of its people and meet all of this increase of prices of various things, not just the gas, even electricity, and meets many other things that have increased in prices.
Like we keep saying it on the show, Nigerians should just brace themselves for more hardship, because it's unfortunate that these monetary policies are long-term. And then we are also seeing that the government is thinking about bringing in fiscal policies, and we are looking at it being tax directed. And then it just means more hardship, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. But we're just hoping that the people doing their job at the background, making sure that there is a balance, are actually doing their jobs earlier, because it always turns out that people are sleeping on their job. That's why we will wake up 4 years later and there's no result to what we're doing, because the people that have been assigned with the responsibility did not come through. So I just hope that the people that are monitoring this market, making these policies, doing all the supply and the demand for our currency, so that we can see that we are gaining grounds on the parallel market, and even in with the CBN, and how we have left our the floating of the currency, leaving it all at the importer and exporter window, knowing that demand and supply is what will contribute to the factor of our currency gaining value. I hope that the people taxed with this responsibility, the NGS, our forest market, and all of that, are doing what it takes to see that there is some stability at the long run. And as the federal government is accounting for all the money being saved from subsidy removal, we hope to see that we have another refinery working, and we're not only depending on the Dangote refinery, that we are yet to start seeing these results and all of that, because as it is now, it's just inflation, it's just our currency devaluing, and we are going to keep seeing a surge in the increase of the fuel pump price. So yes, Nigerians should just prepare themselves that these policies are not short term, so we are going to keep seeing things getting harder. Then the government needs to wake up also concerning palliative, because it feels like they're sleeping but crying over their vacation packages and all of that. So yes, let's just keep praising ourselves for what is going to keep happening in the country.
Yeah, you know, just the last paper you took, which was this day, where we saw IMF saying that Nigerians economic policy is too loose to support the nation's currency.
Exactly.
So I think this is the step where Nigeria as a country need to come together and see what are some of the policies that we've been setting. I know over the time, there was a time you said sometimes we keep having advices coming from international bodies, and then we don't get to see bodies within giving us solutions to certain things. So if Nigeria's policy, economic policy, is too loose to support the currency, then I think it's high time that people involved in setting this policy should look into making more tight policy that will actually benefit the currency and also improve it, rather than it getting loose every moment. Well, we hope to see better things being done. Still on the Punch newspaper, Shaibu fault defection claim court halts removal. You can find that on page 7. We have the big story on Niger crisis. ECOWAS troops on standby. Junta threatened to kill Bazoum. Tinubu says ECOWAS open to dialogue. UN, US worry over Bazoum in Junta's captivity. Concern rise over looming humanitarian crisis burden on Nigerians' finances and military. Downside of the paper, flood hits Edo, Adamawa, Ekiti, and 17 others. We hope that the governors of these countries will take heed, even though we had warning earlier about the issue of this flood coming from Nema and even Nema. It's a fact that there will be flood this year. We've seen that about 18 or so states here, over I think about 20 of the states have been affected. So we hope governments of this country will take heed and then provide other effect to cushion this effect, provide a solution to cushion the effect for the state. And on elevator crash, more dust after Lagos female doctor tragic death. We are aware of this doctor that died in the elevator, so quite a lot of things are happening. You can read that human angle story on page 3. Bus crashes into Lagos shop, kills mother and daughter, a sad one again from the human angle. You can read more detail on page 4. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, Oshamale to Shaibu, APC not haven for failed politicians. Southeast governors to battle insecurity collectively. We have 21 killed in Plateau down attack by bandits. You can find the details on page 26. And we have carbide ripping fruits dangerous. This is coming from NAFDAC warning, and I keep saying let's take our health seriously, because we have fruits like pawpaw, bananas that are being used. The chemicals are used to ripen them on time, and no matter how healthy it is to eat fruits and vegetables, when you eat the one that these deadly chemicals are being used for, it then becomes dangerous to you. So you can find more details on page 3. The big story on the Nation newspaper: ECOWAS puts troops on standby for Niger Republic junta. All options on the table. UN worried over fate of President Bazoum. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 6. We have an MBS report. Agri-sector lost 577 billion naira to flooding in 2022, and I believe that more will be recorded this year as we are seeing more flooding cases. You can find more details on page 6. General Agwe Jega always Bagaje, 8 others don't use force on Kupi. So we are having our ex-military generals giving Nigerians option, and the ECOWAS precisely what to do about Niger Republic. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 4. And we have Naira closes at 930 to $1 in parallel market. We have motion on MF there for Tuesday. You can find the details on page 6, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
All right, let's take the Voice of Liberty. Cooking gas prices to surge next week, coming from marketers. On the issue of Niger, US won't declare soldiers who remove Bazoum coup plotters, coming from officials. Massacre in Plateau as gunmen kill 21 villagers. ECOWAS order immediate standby force against Niger junta. Castina will not negotiate with terrorists, says governor. And on appointment, we have been dumped, Tinubu supporters group cry out. And on the issue of coup, my Niger Delta boys and I can restore democracy in Niger, coming from Tokumbo. You can find why he said that and what it involved. And on ministerial screening, DSS allegation against El-Rufai I revealed. You can find more of that story inside the paper. And that's all on Voice of Liberty. But I think we should go on a break at this moment, Rachel, so we can hear some of the feedbacks, some of the contribution, the thoughts of our viewers when we come back from this break. Please stay tuned with us. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories coming from even the Kupis in Niger Republic, where they have said that they will murder the president if ECOWAS try to bring in the military into all of these. A number of stakeholders, elders, even retired generals are saying that that should not be the step forward. Rather, the issue of diplomacy should be involved, where peaceful talk, negotiation should be involved. We have a number of stories also where we see marketers are saying that petrol price might increase, gas price might also increase, maybe by next week. So quite a number of stories. We'd love to hear what you have to say about that. Our number is displayed on your screen. Please do well to call us. Reduce the volume of your TV set when you do that, and then just remember you have about a minute to air your view. Try to summarize so all the callers can also air in their view. I still have Rachel Tanzi with me. Thanks so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, Rachel.
On the Matrix newspaper, Naira unification, Nigeria foreign exchange inflows hit $2.55 billion in 2 months, coming from the CBN. The demand for dollars still outstrips supply. You can find more business details on page 9. Women's World Cup, James banned 2 games after storm. You can find the details on page 21. And on insecurity, Southeast governors meet in Enugu. Perpetrators of stay-at-home criminals coming from the governors discuss the release of Nnamdi Kanu. The big story in Niger crisis, ECOWAS gives junta last chance. Tinubu reinstate peaceful negotiation, keeping Bazoum hostage. Terrorist act coming from the Cote d'Ivoire president, who will kill Bazoum if military intervenes, coming from the Niger quiz. You can find more details on page 2. Still on the paper, Ohaneze describes nomination of only 5 ministers from Southeast as unfair and unjust. NCAA ICAO signed Civil Aviation Master Plan Memorandum of Understanding. APC Not Rehabilitation Center respect Obaseki, Ashomole tells Deputy Governor Shaibu. Gas price to rise next week, coming from marketers. Ijo Okoka communities protest creation of 33 local councils in Ondo. You can find more details on page 3, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
Alright, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Who blink first? That's the question, and you want to know the answer. You check that on page 6, where it said Niger form new government as ECOWAS standby force ready for deployment. And here we are having scenes of forgotten past, which is a big story on page 4 and 5, where we have Nigerians up for Silliman's ahead aging museums. You can see quite a number of some of the countries that are actually benefiting from it. So you can do well to grab the paper on page 4 and 5 and read more detail of that story. We have Youth Party false claim of 1 trillion naira saved import subsidy error. You can find that on page 7. Reps issue arrest warrant on IPPIS officer over alleged job racketeering. Otitola makes fresh move, raise stake in the FBNH with 0.3% worth 2 billion naira. And then we have Nigerian artists raise 11 billion naira revenue from Spotify in 2022. Well, I think this is where Nigeria needs to look into how they can key into the industry entertainment, because quite a number of revenue can be realized from there. So you can do well to read more detail of that story on page 27, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
Starting with the big story on New Telegraph, ECOWAS activists stand by force. You can find more details on page 2, 3, 4, and 7. Coming from IMF, Nigeria's economic policies to lose to support Naira. Still on the paper, we have fuel price will continue to rise as cost of crude and foreign exchange increases. This is coming from IBMA. We have Nigerians to pay 107,500 naira for IELTS from September. Now these are English tests when you want to study abroad, especially if you're not from English speaking countries, and sometimes it's mandatory. Now we are seeing the price going high, meaning Japan is no longer that cheap anymore. You can find more details on page 29. Still on the paper, Southeast governors to security deal with perpetrators of insecurity. You can find more details of that statement on page 3, 4, and 29. Still on holiday allowance, Akpabio apologizes to senators. And at the downside of the paper, we have a study: new drug could control blood pressure with ease 2 doses per year. Now that is a good one, and you can find the details on page 7, and that's all the news on New Telegraph.
I think that would be good news for a lot of people that are suffering from high blood pressure.
Yes.
If it means you're taking just 2 doses rather than the regular
True.
drug they keep taking just to control their blood pressure, I think this is really commendable. So we wait to see what this new drug is. Hope it doesn't have some side effect and all of that, and then it will help people. But I think it's important. We've seen in some of the papers another story here about the issue of Southeast governors to security. We will recall that they had a meeting with Ribado about a week ago about the issue of insecurity ranging from that which happened in Enugu, and then especially in regard to the sit at home, where a lot of businesses A lot of money has
Shut
been
down.
lost
Yes.
because of the sit at home. And then I think, was it a Monday or Tuesday, we saw the paper where Nnamdi Kanu on the paper
Saying
said that
it's
he won't forgive those who are forcing the
exactly.
sit at
Yes.
home. And then we're seeing here that the Southeast governors actually saying they should deal with perpetrators of this insecurity. And I think it's commendable because looking at the billions of naira that has been lost as a result of sit at home, and then lives that also have been lost as a result of that, I think the Southeast governors really have a point here where they say they should deal with the perpetrators, and I hope that they have the intelligence that is needed to do that. Also, that we've seen even in Plateau State, and then the governor seems to be worried because the issue of insecurity is becoming overwhelming for the state, and then we see that particular states and communities have been a target. Hepan community of Berkeley has been kind of a soft spot. Over and over, we've seen that attack has been going on in that village. When the security agents are trying to block one way, these people find another way to get into the village, and it breaks your heart because most of these attacks are about 1 a.m., 12 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. So we're looking forward to seeing more proactive measures. We know that the governors are trying their best, but then, you know, when they say well done, more is being needed, more is expected of the governor. So we look forward to seeing some of the steps they will take. We look forward to seeing what they will do, and no wonder people are still against the issue of this Niger military intervening, because this will only escalate the terrorism we are having in the country presently. So let's see what the Southeast governors will do. Let's see what even the governor of Plateau State will do, and many other states that have been, you know, we have even Zamfara banditry, Borno over the years, Kaduna, and the likes of these places. The fact that it's quiet doesn't mean nothing is going on there. Possibly these people are cooking something else. So I think the governors of this state should not just be relaxed, but they should start planning something more, and we hope intelligence are going round to make sure nobody's actually planning something evil against the country presently.
You know, looking at what the Saudis governors are about to do concerning collaboration to fight insecurity, I believe this should be adopted in states that are having similar issues. We have Kaduna, we have Plateau, we are looking at Nasarawa going through. We have people on their way to Abuja, in as much as the Federal Capital Territory haven't accounted for such kind of attacks on villages, but we are having one boundary or other that's being shared by Plateau, Nasarawa, Kaduna, and these are all states that have been having attacked by unknown gunmen, Fulani herdsmen, bandits, and all of that. So why isn't there a synergy in fighting insecurity? Why shouldn't there be a cooperation to do? Let them collaborate and see how they can join their heads together and be able to find insecurity, because we've had situation where the Nasarawa state governor is complaining that these bandits have moved from one state to another. Yes, like they don't move in buses, they move systematically in a way that they know this track, they know this route, they know how to successfully move from one state to another. So imagine where we have a caller.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Forget my name. I said the insecurity in Southeast, the two ladies sitting there, I expected them to say that it's because of when they released Nnamdi Kanu from the prison, the insecurity will stop in Southeast. But if you don't want to say that, you are saying that we are human beings. You understand? When you go to other countries don't behave like the way Nigerians behave. We are not happy with you people. I have a work in Southeast. I have work in East there. I left it and go to another person's country. I'm stranded. I'm supposed to be in my home and be working so that our economy will be growing. We are in another people's country, stranded, going around. Why? Releasing Nanika, there will be peace in Southeast. Say something like that, okay?
Right. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think he was raising the concern still on the issue of the Southeast.
Yes, and as much as his opinion was that the release of Nnamdi Kanu will be what will bring peace to the Southeast, at the same time we can't say for sure that it is. We don't know. Let's allow the government deal with it the best way. However, there is need for security in the Southeast, and whatever the governors have to do, whatever it takes for them to do that, let them do that. And just as I was saying, Sele, we need to see that happening in the Middle Belt states like Benue, and we've seen attacks in Mina, Niger in the past, and all of that. So it calls for collaboration, because the moment you sit back and think it's only happening in the plateau, it's just a matter of time before it gets to you. So ripple effect, and we will all feel it.
And secondly, I don't know why our country are just going like this. If they can have opportunity even to add what's happening in Niger now, I wish there would be a different thing. But in Nigeria, we are too many. We can't cooperate in that issue. If we can cooperate, even deal with all those things, everything, all these things will stop. It's very bad. They should listen. I don't know if they are listening with all these things that we are talking in television or media. Those are our leaders. Are they listening to all these comments? Huh?
All right. Thank you for that contribution, in as much as we didn't really get the point you were trying to make, but either way, thank you for putting your call through.
Of course. So I think that's it. Is that all with the
Yes,
paper
that's
we're
all
taking?
on the New Telegraph today.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Independent newspaper. 20 killed in a fresh herdsmen attack in Plateau communities. You can find detail of the story inside the paper. Southeast governors agree to deal with perpetrators and sponsors of insecurity. You can find it. All right. Hello, good morning.
Is the issue of Southeast security problem I want to talk about.
Please go ahead, we can hear you.
The problem there, we are only waiting for the evil day. All of us, or the people, the state actors, they know the problem. They should not be running up and down talking over this, and when they know the genesis and they know how to get the problem solved, let them meet the man in Asorok. As the courts have Nnamdi Kanu discharged and acquitted, up to today is being held there. They have been running around the court again. If I'm telling you, as I'm talking today, I'm living in the Southeast. We all know what is happening here. The problem here is not because of say there's outside or there's people from heaven and earth and doing anything. Nnamdi Kanu is the pervector problem here. Let them release him and everybody let us know where our problem is coming about. But for today, Nnamdi Kanu is only the thing that is holding the peace from running. How are we playing ostrich? Somebody will tell you this, we organize this, they organize the Bible, they organize all sorts of securities. Where do we end up? Still where we are. Everybody is talking, release that man. He is not, somebody say he's a red flag, whatever, he's a high risk security man and problem. No. People here, even the grassroots, will say, release him, let us know where our problem is coming about. But the people, those who have the power in Nigeria say, no. Are we going to continue like this? If the Southeast governors, the senators, the rep, and all the rest of them, if bring them all together to talk without that man there coming out, let them forget whatever they are doing. We know what is happening. They are playing politics with the whole thing. My dear sisters, all of us here, we know. Forget whatever politicians are doing. They are doing, now they are going on holidays with their token prayers and the token good things in their distance. They want the problem to fester all about. So the issue of Nnamdi Kanu is pivotal to our peace in the Southeast. If they like, let them do it. If they don't like, till next year, till 2 years to come, if that man is there, Southeast will never see peace.
Thank you very much.
Take it or leave it. That is my submission. Thank you, and God bless you all.
All right, thanks so much, sir, for your input to the story. Yes. All right. Still on Daily Independent, we have from the big story, which is on Niger coup. ECOWAS insists on military intervention with the rider. Orders activation of standby force to restate Bazoum. Decision not that of Nigeria's against Niger Cote d'Ivoire president. We are not adverse to dialogue with coups coming from Tinubu. Junta unveils cabinet as fear for disposed president group. Khan denounces any form of military intervention in Niger. You can find all of this on page 6. Tribunal seek NNPP reps member Muta Yerima. Edo deputy governor may join APC next week. Job racketeering probe reps issue arrest warrant against AMCO staff Kolo. Court fixes date to hear Emifede federal government application, which you can find on page 6. Chief of Army Staff vows to end insecurity in the southeast. Downside, we have police bus power cable thieves, armed robbers, cultists in Delta recover gun. You can find that on page 8. We have the picture story showing the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, and other members of the ECOWAS during the meeting yesterday. And that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On First News newspaper, ECOWAS declares war on Niger junta, orders standby force to flush out coups as junta leaders form new government. We are dedicated to finding lasting solution, a statement coming from Tinubu. And on vacation allowance, senators, principal officers got 35 million naira, 50 million naira, Timmy Frank alleges. And on ministerial screening, inside SSS allegations against Nasir El-Rufai. Tribunal sacks Kano NNPP rep. We have ECOWAS decision on Niger taken collectively, not Nigerian affair, coming from the Ivorian president. And on job racketeering, reps committee orders arrest of ex-FCC staff for shunning invitation. And coming from PSR, affected workers want Tinubu to hold compulsory retirement plan. Still on First News, Obaseki / deputy rift, APC not rehab for failed politicians. A statement coming from Oshemole, and the federal government appeals order granting Emefiele bail. You can find more details inside the paper, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, more rules for Nigerians as NALPGAM hints on increase in price of cooking gas. Uncertainties BC Nigerians as ECOWAS orders standby force against Niger junta. Says military leaders have defiantly ignored peace talks as Niger coup leaders shun threat from the new government. Avoid military action that will create enmity between Nigerians and Niger, Khan tells Tinubu. You can find on page 3. Southeast governors resolve to collaborate to end insecurity, exonerate Nnamdi Kanu from unrest in the region. Osun APC challenges Governor Adeleke on payment of pension backlog. You can find on page 2. How forex disparity is affecting our operation, Ibom Air COO is saying. You can find that inside the paper. Serap threatening to sue Apabio over payment of holiday allowance to senators. You can find detail inside the paper as well. And that's all the Nigerian News Direct.
On the Blueprint newspaper, starting with the big story, 24 hours after Sanusi Chani peace parley, ECOWAS orders troops deployment, Tinubu calls for dialogue. Junta rejected all entreaties for peace coming from the ECOWAS Commission. Why we must opt for peaceful resolution, Nigeria explains. We have Akinteriwa Dantani orders seek ECOWAS court's intervention. You can find more details on page 6. Deputy Speaker Kalu visits Ganduje, wants more ministerial slots for Southeast. And Obaseki Shaibu Rift, APC not rehab ground for failed politicians, coming from the Somali. Consumers spent 3.33 trillion naira on calls, data, SMS in 2022, a report coming from the NCC. First Bank launches Digital Experience Center in UI. Tinubu celebrates Akintola Williams at 104. Kano Tribunal sacks NNPP's rep, returns APC's cowl. You can find the details on page 17. Naira drops to new low of 923 to 950 per dollar. At the downside, gunmen kill 21 in fresh attack on Plateau communities. More details can be found on page 6, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
Well, I think that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thanks so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. Thank you to each and every of our callers who call in this morning to contribute and give your input on the stories on the paper. We're truly grateful for always making this show lively with your calls. Thank you to our crew members, and thank you also to our supporter, our producer, the general manager of Echo Television, and the Echo executive. Do have a blessed weekend ahead.